Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Student of the Game. I am Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. And listen, if you're here, chances are you like talking sport. We're glad you're doing it with us here tonight. A very special edition in this particular instance. I'm going to two different fan bases that had a lot of amazing stuff going on. A little bit of NBA talk tonight. I warned you last week that was going to happen. I've been spending my time as well covering the Orlando Magic, writing for the Fans First Sports Network. You may also recognize that name as they also power the Duval Dive. There we go. I got my plugs in. So that'll be fun there, too. Of course, we've already aired Tuesday with the Cam Robinson trade on the Duval Dive with my friend Travis D. Holmes of Big Cat Country, so make sure you check that out. But enough about that. I know this is normally a part where I have some sort of a happy intro or something like that, but I talked a bit about my theory on the NBA and the East and how that might go, and I figured the best way to do that is to get a man who's been immersed in the East for a significant period of time. He's done that by way of the Orlando Magic Daily, and he is the main man for Locked On Magic, my guy, Philip Rossman-Reich. What's going on, sir?
Not too much. I mean, I know this is airing during the Magic Bulls game, but we're still kind of basking in a 50-point game, which is pretty cool. It's been a while since the Magic had one of those.
Folks, this is what talented guests do. They set the table beautifully for the first question. And listen, I was there obviously with you covering that game. There was some jaw-dropping stuff, obviously, that took place. Like, Paolo gets all the flowers, but how about Jalen Suggs dropping threes like dimes early in the game to make that happen? The victory over the Pacers, a huge win overall. And it was posed to me by my friend, Ernest EJ Christian, host of the Earnestly Speaking podcast, who actually had the Locked On Heat host on Wednesday before that went the way it did for them, Teehee. As far as the question EJ posed to me was, is Paolo Banchero starting to establish himself as a top 10 NBA presence in the league right now?
He's getting there. That's obviously where things are trending. Like, you look at his first two seasons in the NBA, it's all the statistical measures that we're using to like put his numbers in context are like, he's the youngest player to do this since LeBron James and Luka Doncic. And like, that's the kind of class of player he was in. He had that big playoff series, and it really felt like, okay, we are seeing what peak Paolo Banchero is going to look like. We are seeing what this player looks like at the peak of his powers, doing all the things that we know he's capable of doing. And it's just a matter of, okay, can he put it together for an 82-game season? The big criticism of him was his efficiency, was his turnovers. And a lot of that, you can ascribe some of it to growing pains. He's still 21 years old. He turns 22 in a couple weeks. It's still some growing pains on that part, which you expect from a young player. And even Paolo expects that. But I think what we've seen through 4 games of the regular season, and granted, it is just 4 games of the regular season, is that Paolo has elevated his game another level, that he is putting himself in the conversation of best young stars in the league. That when you talk about the best young players in the league, Anthony Edwards, everyone's obviously hyping up Victor Wembanyama after his first season. Paolo Banchero is in that elite of elite group of young prospects. And the sky just really feels like the limit, because as much as, like, everyone was obviously juiced about the 50 points, like, I was like sitting there like, someone make a shot so he can get the triple double, get him that 10th assist. Like if he would have, like, the Magic winning is obviously the most important part, but if he would have exited that game with 49 points and 9 assists, I would be just like, this is a complete waste. Like, what are we doing here? His ability to impact all facets of the game and now do it positively and efficiently, that is such a big step for him. And it's the biggest question that he faced entering his third season.
Let me hit you with a pop quiz, because the way that Pacer game ended, a big part of it was the Anthony Black 3, who you and I have both been hyping. I saw your short with, I'll give you a bing, Locked On Magic. I wrote about how there will be no fade to black going into the season. I even got the dad joke in there.
Nice.
Philip Rossman, right? That's how you know it's talent. But obviously, Paolo passes the ball to Suggs. Suggs changes his mind, didn't feel good about his ankle, passes it to AB, who knocks that down. What a moment. But would you have traded that for Suggs hitting the three, Paolo getting his 10th assist.
Honestly, no.
I didn't enjoy it either, by the way.
I like honestly no. Like look, Suggs could have taken that first three. He got like a nice pump fake sidestep, but like passing it to Black, and I was talking with a few people about this on Wednesday night. Like that's not a shot Anthony Black takes last year. Honestly, like that's not a pass the Magic trust Anthony Black to take last year. He's not in the clutch situation to begin with, but Jalen, like I remember watching, and it's not that Anthony Black was such a poor shooter last year, but like he entered the league. His shooting was the biggest question mark, and you would see.
Clarify one more thing too, real quick, Phil. We got to add this context. Franz Wagner normally is in the game here too. He had illness and only played the 11 minutes, and he couldn't go any further. He gave what he could, is the way I heard the Magic describe it. Props to him for trying. I get it.
Yes, yes.
But and I think we kind of talked about this too among ourselves with Markelle Fultz. Joey Ingles is no longer on the squad. This was the role that AB's supposed to play, right?
Yep, exactly. And I remember, like, look, AB last year, he had like a 12.7% usage rate. And what usage rate is, for those who are unfamiliar with basketball stats, it's essentially the percentage of possessions that you're in that you have the last action. Free throw, shot, turnover. The percentage, that's the percentage of possessions. And usually, like, if everyone's equal, everyone's at 20%. Paolo and the superstars are like 28, 29, 30, 31, 32%. Paolo, I think, was at 28% last year. Franz was at like 25%. That gives you an idea of how guys are being used. So a 12% usage rate or 13% usage rate is extremely low. He was essentially not a factor on offense. And I remember various points last year, Anthony Black would be open and teammates would not pass him the ball. It's just not a knock on him. It's just trust. Do I trust you to make that shot, or should to take the better shot, or should I just take the shot because this is a fine look? Jalen Suggs had a good look for three at that moment.
He did.
But he saw the defender creep up from the corner, and he trusted his teammate to make that shot. That's going to pay so many huge dividends down the road, because essentially, like, not as this is like no one's fault. It's not a bad thing. The Magic didn't trust Anthony Black last year. He was a rookie. He was making mistakes. He wasn't a complete player.
I'm hearing you say Jalen doesn't make this pass last year.
I don't think he makes that pass last year. No. And look, Jalen is all about his guys. Like, his relationship with AB is a real thing, but game on the line, you go to who you trust. If you don't trust that the player next to you to make that shot, you trust yourself, you take the shot. And I think Jalen Suggs certainly trusts himself to take that shot. I think he would have been very comfortable taking that shot, but he saw a better shot and trusted his teammate to make it, and his teammate delivered. That's just a huge moment for a young player.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for a team like this that has a history of dealing with bugaboos and injuries of similar, like, I mean, I mentioned bugaboo because, like, illness, really, this is already happening. If you're a Magic fan, you're throwing your hands up. They looked so healthy for a minute there, and then, Jonathan Isaac, as he does.
You can't have nice things.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, I don't know. I would argue that Anthony Black and Paolo and Caro are pretty nice things as well. But let me take it to the other part there too. Franz Wagner seems to be fixing up his three very nicely in this small sample size.
Yeah, he really has. And obviously it's still very, very early. And Franz throughout his career has been kind of streaky from three. Obviously last year more down than up, but he'll go through spurts where he makes a lot of threes. But there's a lot of confidence in that 3-point shot. I think Franz getting some early results. He very clearly changed his form a little bit. It's a little less of a push shot and more of a straight up and down shot than we've seen, more traditional kind of looking shot from him. And it's clearly it's working for him right now. Again, I think in the preseason we saw him rushing a little bit and saw him still getting used to it. So it wouldn't surprise me if there is some waves to this thing, but early results are important. Like, I do believe that getting some early results builds confidence. And especially with how many more threes the Magic are taking, the scout this year was probably let Franz shoot, see if he makes one, and then adjust to how you defend him. If he's shooting like this, if he's shooting this effectively and at this volume, teams aren't going to be able to leave him. That's going to open up driving lanes for him, driving lanes for Paolo. Yeah. It just affects everything to have a guy that you can rely on to shoot threes. And now that the Magic are taking like 40 threes a game, teams can't just ignore the 3-point line against them and crowd the paint, which is going to be a huge deal as we move forward in the season.
Yeah, how many times have anybody who follows the Magic say they've needed more shooting for a long time, and then KCP, Kentavious Caldwell Pope, Kenny, is that official now? Are we?
Kenny is official. Kenny is official.
because I heard, what was it? I heard Dante Marcatelli and Brandon Gravitz talk about it, and is it Kenny? I don't know. Kenny is official. Okay, you heard it here. Got it. I figured if anybody knew.
Everyone on the team's been calling him Kenny. We were taken aback by it when players first started saying it in media scrums, and we asked Kentavious about it, and he's like, yeah, Kenny's fine. It's just like it's all good. No one's ever called him Kenny. I don't remember anyone calling him Kenny before, but like that's what everyone's calling him. So we're rolling with it.
It's a damn fine usage. I didn't think of you would think Kentavious goes to. I didn't make that connection. It worked for me. I don't know. I was still stuck on.
Ken is an official nickname of his on Basketball Reference, so it's not without precedent.
Okay, there you go. So listen, I was still kind of enamored from the Sentinels, Mike Bianchi going Kentavious championship Pope. That's a whole other thing. Shouts to the Bulldog, but. So let's kind of put, there was two more points that you and I have talked about that I wanted to make here. And what was it? He had 33 in the opener. His scoring was down and he drops to this 50 with 10 plus rebounds. Second youngest player to do that, by the way. The other one, this guy, James, I don't know if you've heard of him, whatever,
not going to amount to much. It's not, he's
whatever, but I mean, for the first guy to do it in about 20 years as a young man, we'll put it that way, right? And I'm noticing, and you pointed this out to me to look for it, and I'm starting to see it. He's not, Paolo is not Nikola Jokic, but that element of being the large man that can score from anywhere on the floor and then also channel passing seems to have been a focus here. You definitely saw it against the Pacers. You saw it in game 2, I believe, against the Nets. Yeah. Is that a thing? Like, have you been seeing that?
Yeah. And like, this was always like the potential for Paolo, and what really elevated him was like, yes, he can be an excellent scorer, but the Magic saw in him, and this wasn't necessarily something he showed at Duke, this ability to be a giant playmaker, to be a 6'10" playmaker. They want to put the ball in his hands and have him make key decisions and make these decisions and make these reads, because, that's what makes this team unique. Like I say this a lot.
I feel like he's bringing the ball up as kind of a point forward more often too.
Oh no, absolutely. And that's by design. Like a lot of Magic fans wanted the team to go out and get a point guard this offseason. And I'll admit I was one of them. I was like, they need a playmaker. They need someone that can help Paolo get some easy shots. Like, if we want to talk about increasing his efficiency, let's get him a dump down in the dunker spot. Let's get him some spot up threes, which he's actually getting a little bit more this year. He's posting up in the corner on occasions and taking more threes from there. Mm-hmm. But let's get him the ball in different areas in different ways, and that'll improve his scoring. That'll improve his efficiency. That'll kind of ease the burden off of him. But under no circumstance should the Magic go get like ball dominant point guard at like a Chris Paul or Trae Young and take the ball out of his hands, because that's going to slow his growth. And what's really apparent from his first 2 seasons was this guy can do a lot more than what everyone thinks he can do. Like, he can be that dynamic playmaker and creator that this Magic team needs. And that's the part that's so exciting about him. And really what's been exciting about the way he's developed this year. Like, he had 4 turnovers in the game on Monday, but he had 0 through the first half. He had no turnovers against Miami. We're starting to see him make these reads and be a smarter decision maker, despite having 2-3 bodies thrown at him. He's being double and triple teamed all the time. So that's a lot of pressure to put on a 21-year-old third-year player. And he seems to be, he had this great quote during the preseason, actually, I think after one of the practices during preseason, because the first game he had like 18 points in 15 minutes. The second game, he didn't really score. He had like 6 points, but he had like 8 or 9 assists in his 15 minutes of preseason action. And he said, each game is a quiz. Each game is a test for me. The defense is trying to quiz me and test my ability to understand what I'm seeing and how to attack it. And it's on me to pass that test. Whatever they're doing, whatever holes they give me, if that means I have to score 30 points, I'll score 30. If that means I have to score 50, I'll score 50. If that means the defense is making me a passer, I'm going to trust my teammates to make those plays and score those baskets because of all the attention he's receiving. That understanding is so big for a young player.
Yeah.
And he came into this league, everyone thinking he was just brute scorer, and he is a brute scorer, but he's definitely much more about his teammates than I think a lot of people believed he was coming in, and he's grown tremendously in that area.
Yeah, I remember a player describing a situation where you have to watch for a guy who is big but can also run the point like that. You just gotta I knocked my bell over. You just gotta kind of prepare for stop what he's doing and make him do something else, and just kind of hope the team can play defense to stop him. Now I say that description, and you're building Paolo Banchero that way, but ironically, it was Paolo Banchero's description of Nikola Jokic when I asked him about it last year.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a very funny full circle to me right there that's happening. 2 more points I want to make with you here. One more point, and then we'll go on to the East in general. But we're obviously approaching the first big road trip, and there's basketball wisdom you entrusted to me, so I can continue my role as the student of the game. But the first big road trip is where teams start to find their identity. What element are you hoping the Magic find on this 5-game road trip?
Yeah, the thing about this Magic team is we have a good idea of who they are.
Right.
They've been together for such a long time. They played together for 3 years now. They built a lot of this foundation already. And what we haven't seen so far through 4 games is consistency. Is just, we know that reserve is there and we've seen them tap into it, but we haven't seen them put together a full 48 minutes of really good basketball. And look, you could say, well, what about the Miami game? They won that. They were up by 30 in that game. It's like, no, that was like 3 really good quarters. The first quarter wasn't so great. They had this like killer third quarter that put them ahead and ended that game. So like, even the Memphis game, like if you go back and think about the Memphis game, which the Magic were not in really at any point, they're down 29 in the third quarter. They went on a 21-0 run to cut the deficit to 8. They even in a game where they didn't have it, they still put on this like vice grip of a run to win that game. And maybe some of what the Magic are learning is that, not that they need to pick their spots, but they can be elite for a short period of time and they're good enough to bury teams. As a coach, I'm sure I hate that because you don't want to have to count on reserves like that. That's kind of what happened against Indiana, where they went into the tank for the third quarter and then they really had to rally and find that defensive energy again in the fourth. And look, they found it. The Pacers scored only 17 points. They won the game.
Yeah.
But the Magic have to extend these periods of more consistent play. And really, we know this team is about its defense. The defense has been good. Don't get me wrong. We know it can be better. We know that it can be better. It can be more. It can be sharper. It can be tighter. It's not all the way there yet. And so I think what I want to see on this road trip, defense travels. I'm sure that's true in any sport. Yeah. You play good defense, you have a chance to win any game. I want to see the Magic bring their defense because we don't know if the shooting is going to carry on. The Magic have been incredible from 3 this early part of the season.
History would tell us that it won't. Let's be honest.
Exactly. It feels like the bottom's going to drop. And the good shooting is carried the defense a little bit. Just as the defense is put the stamp on a lot of these wins.
Yeah.
The good offense has carried the defense through some really rough spots. Now let's see the defense take some control, take some primacy, and that's going to help the offense too. That's going to keep the offense efficient too with the way that they're trying to run things. It's to me this early in the season, it's still all about consistency and establishing what you can count on when you don't have your best. That's to me, the NBA regular season is a slog. It is 82 games. You're not going to have your best every game. There's going to be, a night like Saturday in Memphis where you're on a back-to-back. It's bad travel. Maybe you got in super late. You're playing a team that's energized for whatever reason, and you just have a bad night. That happens. I wasn't freaking out over anything that happened in Memphis over the weekend. But the question is, when you have that bad night, how do you respond? What do you count on that is going to be there, even if element B and C aren't working? That's what the NBA's regular season is about finding out. And that's what I think the Magic will find out here in the next week.
And yeah, to capitalize on your point, I think the stat that really proves it best is they had 15 turnovers in both Denver and here in Orlando facing the Pacers. Both had 15 turnovers. However, it was half as many points off of turnovers. There was 30 allowed with the I keep wanting to call them the Nuggets.
The Grizzlies.
The Grizzlies was Memphis, not Denver. Excuse me.
We'll get Denver. Don't worry.
Yeah, soon enough. Right. I'm looking forward to that KCP Denver match rematch, by the way. But I should call it a rematch. We'll just call it a matchup. But yeah, the Memphis being able to drop 30 and then, hey, you didn't make a lot of mistakes, but defense closed the door. And then you have reserves putting in 22 plus, every night so far with some combination of Anthony Black and somebody else, whether it be Mo Vaughn or Gary Harris, that's what you're looking for is complete team play. You just got to do it for a full 4 quarters, like you're saying. So I can definitely pick that up. Let's transition to this, Phil. I have the theory out east that the path for the Magic is going to be a little bit easier. Now, I'll grant you, the first part of it really kind of filled itself out for me because I kind of assumed that the Sixers would be without Embiid late. Little did I know is they would be without Embiid early as well, as it would turn out, him making the statement about not doing back-to-backs, whatever. I'll put it this way. If the Magic draw the Sixers late in the year, be it during the playoffs or in those final 2 weeks, as a Magic fan, or if I'm a Magic fan, I should say, I feel pretty good. The Pacers are interesting. I think they're dangerous because their approach is kind of the best defense is a good offense. They're always going to be dangerous against a team with size. I think they're significant. The Cavs are going to be significant. I think the Heat are aging out, and I'm still not sure of what to make of Milwaukee. So is my logic there nutty that the Magic might actually have an easier road to a higher playoff seed this year?
It's not crazy. And honestly, it's not even so much about what those other teams are doing. Look, the simple logic from the postseason is, Boston, the team you didn't mention, cleared away number 1. Like there's
a reason they weren't mentioned. You got it.
yeah, they're very, very good. But the conventional wisdom was Boston was clear number 1, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, and New York were kind of the established teams that would be fighting for the 2 seed.
I left out New York. Tibbs, by the way, is going to be the big factor there, and then the Cat experiment so far.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, but and then Cleveland, Orlando, Indiana were kind of that next tier. But all these teams have questions. Boston doesn't have a lot of questions, but Philadelphia has the health question. Milwaukee has a health question, and they're starting to age out a little bit, and it's starting to show.
Good point.
New York has this question now with the trades that they brought in. They had questions about their center position. Now they make a trade the week before the season starts. They're still trying to get back on the same page. Orlando and Cleveland have the question of, are they ready to step up? Indiana, are they ready to step up? So I think you're right that maybe the path in the Eastern Conference is not as fraught as it looked. But I also think that it's less about the other teams. The Magic, the way they operate, they don't need to worry about those other teams because they were the 2 seed the week before the season ended last year. They were sitting on the Sunday against Chicago. They beat the Bulls. They're getting ready to go on that 3-game road trip where they lost all 3 games. They were the 2 seed. So they are good enough as it is to be competitive with all of those teams and whatever may happen during the season. No one's surprised Chris Middleton's missing time. No one's surprised that Embiid's kind of in and out of the lineup. That stuff's not surprising. That was baked into last year. Obviously, Philadelphia's probably not going to be the 7 seed again, but this is going to be a tight race all the way through. Last year, 2 through 7 was separated by, I believe, 3 or 4 games. I'm expecting it to be that tight again. And it's going to come down to, that last day of the season in Atlanta in April. A win for Orlando could throw them to the 2 or the 3 seed, and a loss could send them to the play-in. It could be that tight. That's what happened last year. The Magic won that game against Milwaukee. They were the 5 seed. If they would have lost, they'd be in Miami for the play-in game, for the 7-8 play-in game on the following Wednesday or Tuesday or whatever day it was.
And for context, real quick, I want to throw in too, everybody blames Franz Wagner for his bad Game 7 performance in the playoffs. That's ridiculous. What people need to talk about is Franz Wagner missing 5 games to close out that season in this close race. It's just as easy that the Magic went Could have gone the other way, you know.
Exactly. And it's going to be like a little thing like that. Like when they announced Joel Embiid was going to miss the start of the season, I literally sent out a tweet saying, with how close we're expecting the East to be, this could be the difference between the Magic getting the 4 seed or being the 6 seed. Like it could be that big of a swing depending on when guys are missing games. And you know, the Magic have talked about this over and over again throughout training camp. One of the big lessons they learned from last year and going through the playoffs for the first time is that random game in January matters. Like they had that injury stretch where everybody was sick and everybody was hurt, and they dropped a bunch of games in January. You know, as much as we want to talk about the Charlotte loss at the end of the season or that 3-game losing streak to Houston, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia at the end of the season, like those losses matter too. Don't get me wrong. The Magic would say it's the losses that we took in January that we shouldn't have taken, that you know, we were, you know, kind of in the dregs of the season. We got to keep our intensity and our focus in the middle of the season as much as it is at the end. And look, at the end of the season, I think the moment did overwhelm them a little bit. It did get a little big for them. And you know, they were kind of searching for some energy, and they found it obviously on that Sunday against Milwaukee. But you know, now they have that experience, and I think that's going to be valuable. And look, it's going to be tight. You know, we're going to see a big game on Friday when the Magic take on the Cavs. The Cavs look very much refreshed under Kenny Atkinson. They look like when they're healthy, they've always been a very dangerous team. The Magic, you know, caught them in a weird place in that playoff series. You know, Cleveland was facing all the pressure to win that series, and they struggled with that. So they seem to be in a much better place this year. They seem to, their bet on continuity seems to have worked as well, but we got a long way to go, and there's going to be a lot of jockeying that's going to go on. And, you know, I would say this about the Magic. The Magic should not enter a game this year where they don't feel like they can win. That's how good they are.
Damn.
You know, Boston is the only team that is just like, okay, to beat Boston, you've got to do, you know, I always say like every team has like 5 or 6 things they got to do to win. The really good teams only have to do 3 or 4 of them to win most nights. Most nights, if the Magic have 5 or 6 things they need to do to win, most nights they'll need to do 3 or 4 to win. Against Boston, you got to do pretty much all 5 or 6. That's how good Boston is. That's how good Boston is right now. But like the Magic are good enough to not play perfect games and not play, you know, fantastic games and beat just about anybody in the league. And that belief is I think really empowering for this team.
Yeah, in full disclosure, I feel like what we learned about Boston last year too is that Porzingis' health is a big part of it. But even if they're without him, they're still an awesome team.
Really good.
Let's not confuse things. Out west, I don't feel like there's been a lot of changes to that landscape. I get it, you know, but Kyle, you know for a fact that KCP's not in Denver anymore. Yeah, sure. But they also won a lot of games without him too. Just ask Jokic. But I mean, is it a clear-cut repeat? You know, that Minnesota's relevant. I mean, we don't believe Dallas will get as far, do we? What do we make of the Suns? I'm not.
I mean, you know, like the East, I think is a little bit more ordered. Like there's a lot clearer tiers. You know, there may be some jumbling between layers and levels, and some teams may level up. But you know, I think the East is pretty ordered. The West is all chaos. Like everybody is as good as everybody else. Like Oklahoma City is really, really good. They were the 1 seed last year. They were just very, very young. You know, Dallas and Minnesota are good, but potentially flawed teams. Like they were able to win their matchups. Give them, you know, you go as far as you can in the playoffs, and you don't apologize for it.
Sure.
Repeating that is going to be tough, but I would say that about any team in the West. You know, repeating where they went and how they got there is going to be tough because those are all 7-game series. All these teams are really, really, really tight and really close. And so, you know, the West is just about survival. And, you know, there's going to be changes. Obviously, I think, you know, the Clippers are going to take a step back this year with Kawhi Leonard being out and losing Paul George. Phoenix should be better now that they have a true point guard and a year kind of under their belt. Mike Budenholzer is a great offensive mind. He's going to really help, you know, unlock that offense a little bit. Minnesota's, you know, looked fine, but they've got their adjustments they got to make to losing Karl Anthony Towns and integrating Julius Randle and some of those new pieces in. Denver is very much figuring out how to replace Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and some of the financial decisions that they made with their championship window. The Lakers look significantly refreshed with JJ Redick as the head coach and introducing some new concepts to them. You know, you can't sleep on a team like the Houston Rockets, who've had a really nice start to the season as well. I talk to the Locked On Rockets guy all the time. Houston's like a year behind Orlando in their development. Like last year, they were the last team eliminated from the playoffs or from postseason contention, made a late run to get into that conversation like the Magic did in 2023. I don't know if they have a 2024 Magic style leap in them where they'll win 47 games and be a playoff factor, but they're not going anywhere. The Sacramento Kings are still hanging around. The Pelicans still have so much talent, even if they have some big decisions they have to make. The Warriors still have Steph Curry. Like it's deep. Yeah. And all these teams are, to varying degrees, about as good as each other. And so, you know, when everyone says, oh, the regular season doesn't matter in the NBA, like last year should have told you, no, that's not true. Every game matters in both conferences because a win makes you the 5 seed, a loss makes you the 8 seed. It's that simple. It's going to be that way all year. And you're going to feel the weight of those losses a lot more.
It still weirds me out that Sacramento is a good basketball team, bro.
They're fun.
No, they're very fun to watch now. No question. I mean, they haven't been good since Chris Webber and that group. With that Samani Walker 3 that was after the buzzer at halftime against the Lakers, but the refs allowed it, and then that took it to a 7-game series at the Lakers. Not that I'm bitter, but
on advice of my attorney, I am invoking my rights under the Fifth Amendment.
Ooh, Philip thinks I'm onto something, Mister. Here, don't worry about him. Basketball's only his third language. What did he just say? No, good stuff, Phil. Man, listen, we could go on and on. You're going to be back on the show at some point. Obviously, it's mostly about your schedule because, listen, you said it yourself. The NBA is a marathon, regardless of the fact that the Magic are off to a good sprint. By the way, the title of one of my articles on Fans First Sports Network there, so make sure you check out that Magic content there too, as well as my friend Philip Rossman-Reich of Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic. Tell the world where you can be found, my friend.
Yeah, those are the places to find me. OrlandoMagicDaily.com, daily Orlando Magic content and analysis that you can find there. I have my daily podcast Monday through Friday and on game days with Locked On Magic. So you get your daily dose of Magic there. You don't have to listen all 5 days a week, but it'd be nice if you did. You know, if you want any taste of the Magic. We also have a brand new thing on the Locked On Network. We're doing daily newsletters as well, so you can get all the latest Magic stuff in your email box, in your inbox. I believe we're still sending them out in the afternoon right now. It's still very much in its early stages, so apologies for any inconsistencies. But the Locked On newsletter is also out as well. You can find that, I believe, on lockedonpodcast.com as well. So you can find me lots and lots of places, plenty of places to find my work, find my writing, and hear me yammer on about the Magic.
Listen, you need to make sure you check in the Locked On Magic every week, if for nothing else, to see that fabulous hair that Phyllis like has. So listen, an honor, joy, and privilege to have you on, man. And we'll see you soon, brother.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
And a real treat tonight on the Student of the Game. An honor, joy, and privilege to bring in a guy who I've done business with for an extended period of time. This man works so hard, he lives the SIRTOBA life where the struggle is real to be awesome. The host of Total Football Talk Extra, In-N-Out Sports Debate Show, and Commander's Gridiron Report, which is the most relevant thing that he'll be talking about here tonight. My man, for an extended period of time now, I have to say that. I would say how long, because I don't remember. I haven't counted it. Enough of that. Mother-fathering Drew Willingham here on the Student of the Game. What's going on, my man?
Glad to be here, my man. Thanks again, as always, for having me. It's very rare to have a Wednesday to be here with you and to be able to talk sport, you know, as you say here on the Student of the Game podcast. And, you know, with your contributions here for, you know, SIRTOBA Media, greatly appreciate it. You here twice a week, and now we're doing it again together. We got a lot to talk about. Looking forward to chopping it up with you here today.
Hey, it's not often you get founders to networks on here, but we've done a few here on the Student of the Game this year, right? SIRTOBA, 3 Point, Huddle Up, Bowie TV. I'm racking up the list to company people, man. It's great. No, but listen, enough about company people. Let's talk about Drew Willingham, the fan. Because I've spent some time talking Commanders on this and other shows. But you were in the stands for that Hail Mary. You have been a besmirched fan even back in the days of the quote slur, when they were still the Redskins. You were suffering. You You were given RG3 for a season, and then Mike Shanahan sabotaged you, and then you were suffering. I said what I said, Drew Willingham. Then you suffered through what I would call an addiction, a bad habit. Like some young college kids get addicted to weed. You had that same addiction to ACC quarterbacks, and now you've kicked that habit. I said what I said, Drew Willingham. Now
you do it.
You see a rookie quarterback battle for the ages, where I was worried America would lose regardless of the outcome of the game because Jaden Daniels wouldn't play. And then he did play. I bet he said to himself, mother-fathering Drew Willingham's in the crowd. I better take my ass onto that field and play some football. Sure did. Walk us through that big moment for the Hail Mary, my friend.
Well, first of all, before the game even started, I made sure that I got one of these foam fingers right here. The commies are number one. Just like in wrestling, they say for the bloodline, we the ones. Because we the ones right now in the NFC East. If you look it up, the Commanders have scored the second amount of points in the entire NFL behind the Baltimore Ravens. They're only 6 points behind, literally a touchdown behind the Baltimore Ravens. So you got 236 points put up against the Baltimore Ravens, 242 right now, currently through week 8. Who would have thought that after 8 weeks, no bye, new coach, 17 new starters out of 22 between offense and defense to start the year. They completely overhauled this team. I, Drew Willingham, is a fan. You know, you have the logo here up here on the belt, the W right up here. And this actually stands for Willywood. My friends that made this belt custom for me actually made that because they know I'm a fan of the Commanders. I have the Commanders Gridiron Report side plate on here. As Kyle mentioned, that is a show that I have with many others. But, 37 years on this earth, witnessed 2 Super Bowls, one in Huggies and one in preschool, at 5 years old. Have not seen anything quite like this in my entire adulthood. Even the year with RG3 was electric. I didn't go to any games that year. I went the year before when it was like Rex Grossman and they played so bad to get RG3. But they actually won one of their very few games that year when we were in attendance, because when me and my friend Paul Kelly go now for the third time since 2011 and that game, they are 3-0. They are undefeated when we are in the stands. So like you said, Drew Motherfather and Willingham was in the stands. Jaden Daniels had to get the dub. And because of the way that he got the dub, I did just buy 2 T-shirts last night. One that has the it's like the Jack Daniels logo, but it says Jaden Daniels number 5, and it says Washington Football.
Nice.
And then the other one is because he has the elbow out when he throws. You know how The Rock has the people's elbow? It literally says the people's elbow has Jaden Daniels, and it was on what is that? Barstool Sports had those T-shirts, and it was like a discount. So for like $45, I got 2 T-shirts. Will be here soon. So plug to Barstool, but.
So you got a Rock T-shirt, and then when you hold up that foam finger in front of your face, you're like John Cena because I can't see you.
Yes. Yeah, except for Jaden Daniels, of course, throwing, but it's like in the Rock design from it's like Attitude Era. It looks like the Rock design, but it's Jaden Daniels with the elbow of him throwing the football, and it says the people's elbow. I'll wear it on a podcast here soon once it comes in. But I got the Terry McLaurin jersey on Fanatics like a couple weeks before we went. An event like what we did, we planned out over a month in advance between the tailgate, what we were going to have, different things. But you can't plan for an event like what you saw in this game. For 3.5 quarters, it was like watching a Tim Tebow game in 2010 where it was just ugly for 3.5 quarters, and then like something summoned from above just helps with the game and makes it go in a certain way, because the Commanders got 4 field goals out of 5 attempts from Austin Siebert. They were up 12-0. And then the Bears come back with Fingernail Man. I call him Fingernail Man because you know exactly what I'm talking about. It comes in there.
I don't want to say Caleb Williams. He's still a good quarterback. Come on, man.
Come on. I give the respect to Fingernail Man. He got the 2 touchdowns in there. He did his job, let him down there, got it up to where it was 15-12 with a 2-point conversion. Had the Commanders made the 5th one, they would have been tough.
I got to ask you, Willie, the opportunity is too fresh. I got to do this. Does that mean this is nails versus tails? Is that what just happened?
Oh, wow. Kyle, you are on the money with that. I like that. The first time, ding, yes, the first time out of all of your puns and the red tails and stuff that you have finally got Drew Willingham to like the Red Tails part. But at the same time, it's for everything that you have been, that myself or anybody else has been through as a fan of this franchise. It's that type of win, whether you watched it on TV or you were there live. It kind of makes you feel good about everything else. It's like I forgive them for the Dan Snyder era and the things I've gone through over the past 20 years as a fan. When we see this type of turnaround this soon with the new ownership, because they had to work with what they had last year because they bought the team like within a month of the regular season start.
Right. They didn't have a lot
So,
good you point that out. They don't have a lot of room to work with. They had to fly. This is their first real season. And probably what gave them the intestinal fortitude to get off of their ACC quarterback habit. I agree.
And Dan Quinn is a great leader, and and is someone great to have within the locker room, and he's doing it great as a head coach. And you bring Cliff Kingsbury to run the offense as an offensive coordinator. The man is smart as a whip, and definitely has been helping them out in that aspect. I said what I said last year about Sam Howell and giving Eric Bieniemy a chance, but I finally, after 8 weeks, because I told you before, it's going to take me 8 good weeks to finally get a true feel for this team, which is why I picked the game that I did to go to, because I didn't anticipate what I saw at the end. And, I thought it would have been a little bit better through 3.5 quarters than what we saw, because it was kind of ugly, but it was a good defensive matchup between the two. So, the Commanders proved to me that they still need help within their secondary. Jonathan Allen getting banged up has definitely affected them as well. When you look at what they were doing with him in the game throughout that run where they were putting up a lot of points and not giving up many, when you look at what they did against the Cardinals and the Bengals, there's a lot of different things that I can look at to where they can get in the playoffs this year, and they can win the division, I believe, if they continue to play the way they are on both sides and remain consistent. But they need more help in the secondary. They got very lucky that Tyreek Stevenson was out of his head in that last play, or last 2 plays, because he was doing it during the McLaurin side-out catch where he went on that little out route for the 10 yards to get up to about midfield, because if it wasn't for that, this play wouldn't have been set up for that anyway. So had Stevenson been in his head for the out route and Terry McLaurin doesn't get that catch, who's to say that this play would even happen? But the what coulda, shoulda, woulda doesn't matter at this point, because what happened is real in real time. And I still pinch myself every morning for the past 3 days to make sure that I am awake and that it did happen, because the moment that happened, the entire stadium was electric. And if you go back and listen to the actual call on TV and in the radio, Jim Nantz went on. I mean, it was wild. I mean, you just didn't expect it. Jaden Daniels, with all the preparation he does every single week, he's mentally prepared more than a rookie usually is. Like,
that's a good point.
This is Peyton Manning level stuff that Peyton Manning didn't even get to until year 2. And Peyton Manning wasn't even this consistent. You look at the QBR of what he did that Monday night against the Bengals. You look at, the other games. He's had some games where he's been a little sloppy at the same time, but that was usually against good teams like the Buccaneers for the first one and the Ravens just a couple weeks ago, the Battle of the Beltway.
Mm-hmm.
He gets banged up against the Panthers, comes out, Mariota comes in, and they still are able to get a decisive win because they have a pretty well-balanced team all around. But the big points, like I brought up earlier, 17 out of 22 new starters to start this year. That set a different tone. This culture is completely different from the reports from our mutual friends within the media who go there consistently. The culture is different. The feeling's different. Their confidence is through the roof, but in a good way. They're not overconfident, but they just have the right attitude over there. And I could feel it. I had great seats on the 10-yard, like right on the 10-yard line, right there, where I was in the spot in the vision of that Hail Mary catch from Noah Brown. So you see Tyreek Stevenson going off in people in the crowd near where I'm sitting.
Is he taunting your section of the stadium?
Yes, it wasn't like directly in my section. It was like the section right next to it, within like the 5-yard line to the end zone.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
But you could just tell, like I could see the vision, but the cool thing about this experience, because this is the first time I went since I was doing media there 2 years ago, and everything that's happened, I wanted to enjoy this as a fan. I didn't take any photos, any videos during the game. All that came from my friends that went, with us, they and the people sitting around that I was able to get some airdrop photos from, after the game. I didn't take any photos or videos. I was literally watching everything. So I'm watching Stevenson jaw at the fans over there, like, they were talking smack to him, and they were getting him out of his head to where he's supposed to be the one covering Noah Brown on that tip in the back in case it happens.
Right.
Yeah. Instead, he's the one who caused the tip, and Noah Brown is by himself, and he catches that ball. It was absolutely wild and electric to see.
There's a lot of craziness with that too. First of all, I get the criticism of Stevenson. I'm not taking him off the hook. I feel like if he doesn't step in, and I haven't found a good shot of the sea of hands yet, but it felt to me like if he doesn't get in there, the commander in that lump of humans still catches that football. Now, if he makes his way into the end zone, that's a separate question. But it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. I feel like Stevenson would actually get less flack if he was there in the trail man as the trail man. They catch it in that pile, and he's still like the commanders still fall into the end zone and get that score. Either way, if you're going to ask me who the real offender is, and you'll pardon my lineman bias here, I don't care how many times Bears defenders were allegedly held, you could still keep contained better than let this man run for 12 to 13 seconds all over the field. No disrespect to Jaden Daniels. I don't want that to be the impression I'm leaving. But this was a trench warfare failure, not Stevenson. It shouldn't have even come down to that, in my opinion.
See, okay. If what transpires in the Commanders not scoring a touchdown, I'm with you on that. But the fact that you have somebody who's not paying attention to the play,
sure,
and his back is turned, sure, after the receivers who are running the route are halfway to the goal. They are literally halfway. They're at the halfway point. They've already ran like 20 some yards, 25, almost 30 yards, to the point where he realizes the play is already in action and turns around. You can't condemn him. I mean, you can't not, condemn him for that.
No one's letting him off the hook. I'm just saying he's not the biggest offender. He's getting all the flack. He's not the biggest problem. If he was in this spot as the trailer, would have he stopped the play? We actually don't know that.
We don't know, but I mean, because he wasn't in his head and he wasn't in position, of course you got to put him as the one to blame.
Right. And even if from what I saw there too, if he's taunting fans, that's the part that drew the attention to him. Let's not mince words. But if he didn't know his assignment then, why would he know it otherwise? And again, Jaden had a lot of time to do what he had to do, and so he's taunting fans while the play is going on and the Cats are running. They still weren't close to the end zone yet when he got involved. He was able to get involved soon enough to be involved with the play. I think the part that really kills him is that he was the trailer and his spot was thoroughly wide open, exploited. Again, no relief. Play the game to the end, to the damn whistle, kids. Okay.
I mean, yeah, because the Bears only sent 3 pass rushers, so they had plenty of people in the backfield, to defend what was going down. So, I mean, there were multiple breakdowns more than just him, but he is going to get the flack because of,
sure,
unsportsmanlike, with the fans. Pretty much, you get paid to play the game. You need to focus on the game. The people that are jawing at you, the ones that are paying just to get there to have the opportunity to jaw at you because you're the away team. So, you got to keep your head in the game, especially against a hot team that has been finding ways to win. And this type of win is going to follow Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams for the rest of their careers. As much as they're going to match up against each other.
Yeah,
playoff implications. They're going the way both these quarterbacks are. The way if they continue to remain consistent, they're going to face each other several more times within the next 10 years, whether it's playoffs or the NFL finds ways to get continued matchup against the Bears because of, the implications of the number 1 and number 2 overall picks. They're going to face off Whether the coach is different with the Bears with Eberflus could be a big question. I mean, that remains to be seen because he's had question marks. But
I thought they should have fired him to start the year, but that's me. But go ahead.
If the Commanders can keep Cliff Kingsbury, Dan Quinn together, and Jaden Daniels, of course, and continue to build on what they have, I can honestly see them in the next 5 years be a Super Bowl threat. Like in the next 5 years, not anytime soon, not in the next couple, but they need more pieces. They need to work within their secondary. They need to continue to add within this offensive line another piece or so. And then, of course, Zach Ertz is only going to be there for so long. They need to draft the future to work with him. Ben Sinnott on the tight end side, on opposite side. They got more work to do, and to get another big-time receiver with Terry and keep him as well. But I like what they're doing. I'm excited to see what they can do with the future. But so far, through the first half, we're not even at the halfway point until this weekend in football to see what we've seen. And it looks like they have a really good chance of winning and being 7-2 going against a big game with the Steelers. This is an exciting season if you're a fan of this Commanders team.
Well, let me build on that because a while back, I dropped a theory on the Earnestly Speaking podcast. I've said it other places, Huddle Up. Let's get some bells in here. I'm dropping names, okay? Okay. Even on this show, talked about with our friend Candy Waller. I believe a power vacuum is forming in the NFC East. Now, the Eagles have played some weak opponents and decided to look decent in the past couple weeks. I'm personally relatively unimpressed with beating the Bengals the way that you did because their defense is awful. I'm not impressed with beating the Giants in dominant fashion. We all know what happened because Saquon was being petty. I'm not mad at it. I'm just stating facts, Drew Willingham. Let's be honest.
I'm not mad at it. Yeah, go ahead.
But against actual opponents, Eagles have not looked great, right? Bucks beat them. I think is it a loss to the Lions I saw otherwise? No, I'm thinking.
They've lost to the Bucks and they've lost to the Ravens.
Ravens, that was the one. Yeah, of course. And
that was a good game. That was a really, it could have gone either way because they were both playing well. Jaden Daniels didn't have any turnovers.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the Eagles.
They haven't played the Eagles yet. The only team they played so far is the Giants.
I mean the Eagles' performance. Like I said, they're against the Bucks, or excuse me, the Bengals. And that's unfortunate, too, because you're mentioning the Bengals beating by Jaden Daniels. For that, it's different for me because you beat Joe Burrow in a shootout as a rookie. That matters. Let me be clear about that.
But in Burrowhead. Not Burrowhead, but you know what I mean. Like, in Burrow Stadium.
Right.
Burrowhead is Chiefs,
yeah. But let me just speak to it then. Like, it was the Falcons. I said they did lose to the Bucks. I'm not wrong. Okay. So
they lost to the Bucks week 1,
and they also lost to the Falcons as well. So that's the two good teams they've played. And
the Ravens?
No, the Eagles.
Oh, the Eagles. Yeah, we're still in the Eagles.
Remember, this is an NFC.
My bad.
So so the good teams they've played without an asterisk, they've lost to. I know, but Kyle, they beat the Packers. It was in Brazil. Jordan Hillov got hurt late. It was a whole weird thing. I don't know how to feel about that.
Still wore green.
Yeah, exactly. On top of all of it, it was week 1. Cool. The Browns, the Giants, and the Bengals are the source of this 3-game winning streak. Nick Sirianni still has questions. The Cowboys have dubbed themselves relatively useless, especially after failing to get the Niners when they could have got. Which, by the way, I've stopped wearing my 49ers cap because my friends who are Cowboys fans start getting nightmares. It's just awkward. Really? So.
Come on, man. Be your own man, Kyle Nash. I was still rocking commie stuff.
It's not the same. It's not the same, But anyways, with all that being said, the power vacuum's forming in the NFC East. Jaden Daniels is doing amazing things. Granted, he's a rookie. They don't have film on him yet. Jalen Hurts is struggling without a Hall of Fame center by comparison, right? Whereas the Commanders, are holding their own in their own way and coming towards 7-2. The Steeler game is going to be fascinating. I want to see what Jaden Daniels does in battling a defense and TJ Watt being injured, so to speak, if he plays, which if they opt to sit him to let him recover and not face the Steelers And from a load management standpoint, I don't think it's a bad idea either. But this power vacuum's forming. I think the Cowboys are cooked for some time based on their contract situation vis-a-vis the Giants, amongst not coach of the year in 2022, even though we got the award, Brian Daboll. Sirianni has had its questions from a leadership standpoint, whereas Dan Quinn appears to be rebirthing. I think this or next year, the Red Tails win the NFC East.
Oh, I can still see them winning the NFC East this year. It's just we got to remember there's been times that this team in their franchise history, as formerly known as the REDSKINS, and even once as the Washington Football Team, won the NFC East. It wasn't pretty because that last one they were like 7-9. It was right before they switched to 17-game season, but it was the last 16-game season of the NFL. But looking at what they've done with that, they're usually out by the second round. They'll host a wild card game because they won the division. But they'll either win that or they'll face the Buccaneers in the first or second round and get thumped. It's either the Buccaneers or the Seahawks that they lose to in the first or second round. If they win the first round, they usually lose to the Seahawks in the second round. But that was when the team was different, and when it was Russell Wilson, and even when Matt Hasselbeck was the quarterback back in 05 and 07. That happened to them twice back then too. Right. So in the short spurts they've made the playoffs, they've won the division multiple times, but they just haven't had a strong enough team to keep going in the playoffs. So I'm now, after week 8, I can strongly see them win this division because, like you said, Nick Sirianni is more than likely going to be ousted after this year because he keeps jabbering with the fans. They keep losing. The games they keep losing are the ones that team like the ones that they're losing. The games they're losing are, when you think back on how the Eagles were 2 years ago, just in the Super Bowl and the caliber team that they had, and how they've regressed in the past 2 years since going to the Super Bowl. I mean, he is on a hot seat. Nick Sirianni is. And when you've got a team like the Commanders who've been at the bottom of the NFC East since winning the division back in 2020, they were at the bottom for 3 consecutive years. They couldn't do anything. Looking at what they did in turning things around, you got to be looking at that as management. You're Jeffrey Lurie saying, hey, Nick is not pulling his weight. He's causing more baggage. This is like having Aaron Rodgers in New York as the quarterback over there causing the baggage, just like it is as him causing the baggage as the head coach. You got Saquon Barkley, who's had big games throughout this year, yet and to the level, not necessarily quite to the level, but he is somewhat the NFC's version of Derrick Henry when it comes to the running back. And you should be able to lead your division with someone of the caliber like that who can consistently give you good numbers and good production. And there's games where they have not utilized Saquon correctly. And if you don't utilize your running backs correctly, like the Commanders didn't get Brian Robinson Jr. going that well over this past weekend, they're lucky that they got to have what happened at the end with the Hail Mary because they didn't establish the run well enough, in my opinion. So teams that have a great running core that can establish the run are the ones that genuinely have the best shot at doing it. And the year that they went to the Super Bowl, they kind of had to have their quarterback be their mobility within that Miles Sanders in order to make things work within their running game for them to squeak into the Super Bowl at certain moments throughout those important games that led to them getting there. Right here and now, I don't see the Eagles being a threat even if they get the wild card. I just don't see them being a threat to the NFC. The Commanders, I can see winning the NFC East, hosting a wild card game and winning that and get to the division round, and maybe cause some noise in that division game, but it depends on who they get matched up with. More than likely, I don't see them making the NFC Championship this year. Right. They still have more moves they have to make.
In that wild card game, like the real chance of them playing, let's say, a Packer team or a Vikings team, that would be thoroughly difficult, or God help us all, God help Red Tails fans, if they end up drawing Trent Williams' current team and having the specter of the 49ers coming in after they take Chase Young to the Super Bowl, after, that would, that's the kind of stuff. That's the problem with being the number 4 seed, is that's the kind of matchup you could get in the wild card round. So it's tough.
The 49ers season all depends on how severe the Achilles, bang up of Christian McCaffrey is. Because he's had the tendonitis going on this year, and why it slowed him down before he couldn't even get into the season. And then now we're talking Achilles. it's not looking good for the running back situation, even though I do like what your backup's done over there. He's definitely put up a good amount of points.
Which one?
Yes, and it's helped me out with fantasy too, because I got him on one of my fantasy teams, but we'll talk about that later. But at the end of the day, Mr. Mason, appreciate you. But looking here and now, I don't see the 49ers. I'm sorry, Kyle, just like you're not wearing the hat. I don't see the 49ers being as much of a threat as the Commanders are right now. If the Commanders
true. No,
if the current version of the Commanders right now, even with Jaden Daniels a little banged up, but you saw what he did while he was banged up. He still hurled a deep Hail Mary pass. He's gonna be fine. If these two current teams faced each other in the same condition, health, and everything the way they are in the first round of the playoffs, and it was the wild card, right? And it's at home, I have a really good chance. I have a really good feeling that the Commanders win that game. The good division round, I don't know who they play at that point. We'll see how that goes.
Well, you're assuming a lot of guys don't come back, too. That's kind of the point I made the other night on the Huddle Up podcast. This could be a scenario similar to Drew Brees late in his career, where he got hurt earlier in the year, missed a healthy amount of games. They got some wins with Teddy Bridgewater, and then Drew Brees ended up coming back fresh for the playoffs. At that point in his career, if he had played the whole season, he would have been cooked for the playoffs. That offense would not have been as good. Where am I going with this? Whether they have McCaffrey or not, let's say they don't. They'll get Debo back. They'll have just the myriad of guys that were hurt back. Oh, but they won't have Brandon Ayuk. What was he doing before he got hurt? Anyways, so, all of that. I don't think the Niner team you'd play in that wild card round won't be the same one you would play them if they were to play today. That being said, I'm with you. If they were here on the regular season schedule next week, I'm not mad at anybody that would pick the Commanders, depending on the spread, of course.
We'll just have to see, what's going on at that time. Health plays a very big key into every game performance. That's why, NFL, anything could happen, each and every week, so I was hoping they would be 4-4 at this point. That was what my prediction was, when we were originally talking about going to this week 8 game, seeing the number 1 and number 2 overall pick. And to be able to get to that point, and they were 5-2 going into that game, 6-2 afterwards, and to be able to experience that, it was great. And then, you look and see what the Eagles are doing within the NFC East. You look and see what the Cowboys are doing, especially playing with your team or not doing. And then you get the Giants this week. Yep. The Eagles and the Commanders is going to be an interesting matchup, because if the Eagles win both of those games, which is still could potentially happen that way, sure, then the Commanders more likely would have to get a wild card spot in order to make the playoffs, because they would have the leg up in the division at that point.
Sure.
So that's why I still have said for several weeks, even going into that Ravens game, don't drink the Kool-Aid. There's shorts out there me saying don't drink the Kool-Aid yet, because they were playing teams subpar record that are not, like the Bengals, not the team they were when they went to the Super Bowl, a few years back. The Cardinals still have a lot to work with. They can't get Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray consistently going until this past week. They finally did with Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison and Kyler Murray getting together to where they could win that game 28-27. But looking at what the Commanders have been able to do in this 8-week span is very impressive. But because they've only had one division game with the Giants, which was that field goal contest, 7 field goals to 6, and to set a franchise record. Seibert did in his first game, just signed 2 days before that game, and has been playing pretty well since. Missed his first field goal, I think it was this past weekend too. So looking at that for what it is, they still haven't been truly tested yet. You still have 5 more division games, and you still have some pretty good teams with the Steelers to play throughout. The schedule gets tough. The one thing I do like about the fact that they got onto this run like they did into 8 weeks, and they have these tough teams, they still have a bye week, even though it's still a little bit later. They're playing some tough teams, but then they also have a week to regroup. Some of these teams that had byes just a week or so ago and have the rest of the season to play, it's a little bit tougher, in my opinion, to play that way. So
sure,
even though they have some tough opponents, and all these 5 games with the division are tough just because of the rivalry, and that's when the other team, even if they suck, play at their best potential because it is a divisional game. getting through those 5, the Steelers game as well, those next 6 games out of the last 9 are very, very, very important for the way the rest of the season goes, but they set themselves up well. The Eagles can definitely still pull it off too, but with this coaching staff and with some of the departures, like Jason Kelsey was big for that offensive line, they've had a little bit more pressure on the quarterback when Jalen Hurts threw out because it's not as cohesive as it once was. And the Commanders have a stronger offensive line. I feel like they're another like guard or tackle away from really being at the point they need to be at. But with Algoretti coming over from the Chiefs, definitely has made a huge impact, and they've definitely improved their game with the run block as well as pass block. And Jaden Daniels also helped him out a little bit with how he can scramble. But they still have a couple pieces there. Another good wide receiver, tied in for the future to fill Ertz's spot. Some moves on the defense in the secondary. This team, I could see in the next 3 to 4 years, Kyle, be a Super Bowl threat. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, and the last point I want to bring up too, you mentioned the scheduling and how good a position they are. I disagree with you in one key element. It's not that bye week is where it is, it's bad. What I think is that bye week is where it is because of what you're facing and having to face a Steeler team on a Thursday night. 4 days rest after the Giants game, by the way. You might have 10 days, but then you got the Eagles immediately after the Steelers with an injured quarterback going into that game potentially. That scares the bejesus out of me. Where do you sit?
I don't think so, because it's, the injury that we talk about, it's not a fractured rib. They're not fractured. He's just basically got bruised ribs. It's not that serious. Like if they were fractured, if he had a hairline fracture or something like that, then, I could see where there'd be a little bit difference, but you can put on a flak jacket, whatever, there's other ways you can protect yourself. And it looked like seeing him there. I don't know if it was something small, like a smaller type of padding or whatever. He had something on around his ribs. It wasn't like he just went out there fully exposed like he normally would, in his normal setup, which I think contributed to him, having less than 300 yards before that Hail Mary, because he was only barely over 50% completion percentage on the day. Like he was struggling at points throughout that, throughout that day. But the kid
defense a little credit too. They're a good team.
The defense, yes, they got Montez Sweat from us for a 2nd-round pick last year. They've also got some other key members on that defense too. Until your cornerback wanted to do what he did and act like an idiot in that game at the end. But other than that, they played very well until the very end. And when that happened, but yeah, you got to give the defense credit, but also you got to give him credit for toughening it out after just getting his ribs whacked the week before. But even when he came back in that Panthers game from getting checked out, had a smile on his face. You could see him on TV. I knew in that moment he was going to be okay. Just didn't know if he was going to play in this upcoming week or not. And for him to understand the importance of facing the number 1 overall pick and the hype between his selection in the draft and Caleb Williams, and to go out there and tough it out. It's kind of like Shohei Ohtani popping his shoulder out in the World Series game 2 and coming back and getting his shoulder popped in that night and playing in game 3 and then game 4. And then we got game 5 tonight where the Dodgers could win and win it all in his first year. Yeah, I just talked stickball in your podcast, but you compare and contrast.
It happens.
The inner toughness of, yes, it does, because it happened the last time we were here. or it's either the last time or the time before that, because it was the World Series time last year. But yeah, anyway, the toughness within the player to go out there and do that a week later after getting his ribs whacked, it goes to show, one, it's not that serious. Bruised ribs do suck. Usually the bruised ribs or anything like that is more painful at times than it is to play through a hairline fracture. Like,
yeah.
Looking at that for what it is, it shows his integrity, shows his toughness, and shows his will to play and to win. And that's something that other teams like the Colts don't have when you have your quarterback tapping out during the game to have Joe Flacco come in because you are tired.
Anyways, so with that, I think that's a good opportunity to transition to picks. Got time to do some picks there, Drew Willingham?
Absolutely, my man.
Let's rock and roll here. Getting this week in the NFL rolling. Halloween. How about that? I'll be missing an element of that because I have little kids. I'll be with my son being Mario, and what Princess Peach, Princess Daisy for my wife and the daughter there. It's gonna be a fun time, Drew Willingham. Anyway,
Yes.
who's more likely to have a fun time than on Thursday? The Houston Texans heading into East Rutherford to battle Aaron Charles Rodgers, who's running out of people to blame. Who you got, Drew Willingham?
The Houston Texans 6-2. They've been doing it a lot on the back of their defense. CJ Stroud has been struggling at certain points this year. He's had a little bit of a sophomore slump in comparison to what he did last year. With that being said, not as bad of a slump as the New York Jets have been having. I got the Texans winning with their defense, mollywhopping Aaron Rodgers and his offense, smacking him around, and containing Devontae Adams as well. They're going to win by 7 points or more.
Hey, Woody, how'd firing Robbie go for you? Yeah, so-and-so. Robert Sala, never the problem. Maybe the Texans are undisciplined, but the Jets are more so. I, too, have the Texans. The Cowboys head over to Atlanta to do battle with the Falcons. Drew Willingham, who you got?
Definitely have the Falcons taking this one. Yeah. Kirk 2 Chainz Cousins been tearing it up, finding ways to get back into his groove. And I like what these Falcons have done. They are 5-3 currently. 2 games over 500, yes, but they have been making noise. See them improving to 6-3 and knocking the Cowboys under 500.
Listen, I normally refer to Atlanta as the fraud cons, but when I saw what I saw on this roster for this offense, what they're doing, and even if Kirk Cousins gets hurt, they have Michael Penix. Still excited. Listen, you already know how I felt about Michael Penix all through college last year from the conversations we have. Most importantly, not an ACC quarterback. But with all that being said, with all that being said, if both teams struggle on defense, that's fine. Who do you pick winning the shootout? I have the Falcons. To keep it a buck, as the kids say. The Miami Dolphins head to do battle with the Buffalo Bills. Drew Willingham.
Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen just threw his first interception inside of 8 weeks this past week. Has been absolutely tearing it up. Definitely in contention for MVP race when you look at the fact that this team is now 6-2 at this point in the year. With that being said, even though Tua is back as Humpty Dumpty, barely touch him, cough on him, he's going to get another concussion. I've got the Bills winning over the Dolphins in this game.
Hey, listen, I too have the Dolphins falling off the wall, and I don't think they'll be able to put this season back together again myself either. The I can't do it. The Vegas team, the Raiders, head over to Cincinnati to do battle with Joey Burr and company. Who you got, buddy?
I feel like the Raiders are on a quest to get Shadur Sanders. And I feel like they're going to lose this game.
See, people laugh at me when I say that.
Yes, in the Bengals, the Bengals have been slowly trying to get their way back to 500 after starting out a little rough, which they always have rough starts over the past decade or so. So I'm going to go with the Bengals winning this game, improving to 4-5, and these Raiders falling to 2-7.
Yeah, I'm with you. The Raiders are a mess. They got rid of Devontae Adams, and then he found a way to get to a worse team, allegedly. Max Crosby's not happy, all of it. Meanwhile, the only thing wrong with the Bengals is their defense is awful. Give me Joey Burr to take Uncle Rico to task. The LA Chargers do battle with the Cleveland Browns, with a reinvigorated Cleveland Browns, I should say, with Jameis Winston at the helm. Drew Willingham, who you got?
It was great to see the upset of the week with the Browns winning this past week over the Ravens. And I feel like with a crab leg snatching quarterback at the helm, they have a pretty good opportunity to do the same thing this upcoming week. The Chargers are only 1 game over 500. They have stumbled and bumbled their way through this season. We already knew they were going to. First-year head coach back in the NFL and Mr. Harbaugh. But I feel like the Chargers find a way to get this win in Cleveland, even though the crab leg snatching quarterback will keep them close in the game. It will be close. It will be less than 7 points difference between these scores. But the difference will be the Chargers will find a way to win with Herbert at the end.
Make note, Drew Willingham just talked trash on an ACC quarterback himself. With that being said, I am going – there you go. I am going with Harbaugh and company on this one. I just feel like there's a bit more discipline, and the listen, the Browns make their money when they do win with tough play up front, and you're battling a Harbaugh. I get it. You did it last week and it worked. I'm not sure you do that 2 weeks in a row. Give me go Chargers, go. Yeah, this is a toilet bowl. The Patriots head over to Tennessee to do battle with Mason Rudolph, who will be filling in for Levis with the Titans. Drew Willingham.
It's a good thing that the Titans are not playing the Browns and Myles Garrett and helmets are flying. But right here and now, when it comes to this situation, when it comes to the Titans at 1-6, at least Will Levis isn't playing. That's all I got to say about that. This is going to be the Dumpster Pelican Bowl of the week between the 2-6 Patriots and the 1-6 Titans. I am going to go with the Patriots winning this game because Tennessee is going to be going for Quinn Ewers more than likely. They need a new quarterback over there. The Levis experiment has definitely subsided, and they will be handed another L in their quest of that draft.
Listen, I've heard from Denzel Washington's agent. He's not even stepping into the state of Tennessee during this game because he wants to make sure that everybody will forget the Titans, okay? I said what I said.
Oh,
Give me the Patriots going for a 2-game win streak after last week shutting down their longest losing streak in the Robert Kraft ownership era. And that's all I have to say about that. The Washington Red Tails head over to East Rutherford to battle the Giants. Hold on. Let me be shocked. Drew Willingham, who you got?
I feel like if there's a chance that they sit Jaden Daniels to rest up, if he does need a little bit more rest, would be in this game before the Steelers matchup, because the Steelers matchup is pretty important next week. In this game right here, you won 7 field goals to 6 in week 2. Okay. It's a rematch of that. I don't see that being the case in these two teams battling out with field goal kickers, but I do think it will be close. It will be a score of less than 10 points difference between the two, but the Commanders will find a way, even if Mariota is playing a quarterback.
Hey, Drew Willingham, who do you have starting at quarterback this week if you're to make a prediction right now for the Red Tails?
I think Daniels does
It
start.
doesn't matter who's starting at quarterback for the Red Tails. Yeah. Is that a good wrestling drop that I did good?
I love it. I love it. That was perfect.
Yes, I too have the Red Tail. I couldn't resist, buddy. I'm sorry. The Saints head over to Carolina in another. Oh, you want a bell for that? Okay, there you go. So another hapless matchup here in the NFC South. The Saints do battle with the Carolina Panthers.
The secondary of the Dumpster Pelican Bowl of the week between the rattled Rattler over there, backup quarterback, Spencer Rattler over there. You know, they're 2-6. They could also be making a play for a new quarterback. Derek Carr being banged up, that experiment's not working well. And then, of course, you have the Bryce Young, led again, I guess, quarterback of the Panthers, who are 1-7. This one, it doesn't really matter who wins, but I'm going to go with the Saints just because the Panthers are just that bad, and they traded away more weapons this week.
You know who loses this game, Drew? America. Okay?
Yes, please don't watch it.
Give me the Saints just in case my in-laws are watching in New Orleans there. How about that? The Broncos head over to battle the Baltimore Ravens, reeling off of a loss to the Browns last week. Drew Willingham, who you got?
You know, the Broncos have been playing pretty well this year. They really have. They're coming into this game with a positive record, 5-3 so far, but they are the road team going against another 5-3 team that's better than what their record is. If Harbaugh can get Derrick Henry consistently going to run the ball, that's what they have not done in those 3 losses where they've gotten him going enough. If they can do it against this Broncos team, the Ravens win at home. But if you let Bo Nix heat up early, the Broncos can steal one, kind of like how the Ravens lost to the Browns this past week. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. But I am going to go with the Ravens, but less than 7 points is the difference in this game.
I'm with you on that. The Ravens win the football game. Take the Broncos with the points. That's my advice. I'm not a degenerate. I just play one on TV. The Jaguars head over to do battle with the Philadelphia Eagles. Willingham, who you got?
It was nice to see the Jaguars get a little bit more competitive as of late, but, you know, they have not had a great season this year, very similar to how the Commanders were playing last year. The Eagles need to win this game in order to stay competitive within the NFC East, especially if the battle of the two NFC East teams goes in favor of the Commanders this week. I am going to take the Eagles at home with this 4:05 game.
Yeah, I have a feeling that this pendulum on this game swings pretty wide. I feel like one of two things are going to happen. The Eagles are going to win, or they're going to win big. So don't bet this game, but I think if you were going to be degenerate and take a shot, take the over. I think you'll see significant points from both sides, depending on who's ready for the game. By the way, at this point, injury reports trend that Brian Thomas Jr. will be playing. Christian Kirk is out for the year. That's a problem. But Parker Washington, as we saw in that final drive where the Jags did tie the game, only for the defense to give up that final game-winning field goal. There was opportunity. The Jags couldn't seize it. Surprise, surprise, as if we've never heard that before in this 2024 season amongst the Duval Devout. That being said, I, too, picked the Eagles. If you want my score, you can check that out on another part of SIRTOBA Media on the Duval Dive. So, next up is the Bears versus the Arizona Cardinals. So, yeah, it's Kyler versus Nails on this one. Who you got there, Drew Willingham?
The Bears need to rebound after what just happened to them this past weekend. But at the same time, with the Cardinals and the Rams winning this past week, the NFC West is wide open right now. And you wouldn't be able to think that, especially with how bad the Rams' record is. But with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua coming back made a difference for the Rams. And for the Cardinals for this upcoming weekend, for this past week, getting Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. going was very, very important as to why they won that come-from-behind game. When you look at this and the fact they're at home, I'm going to take the upset here and go with the Cardinals winning over the Bears. The Bears need a little bit more humbling. Their attitudes, for one, they are still a very young football team. They need to mature, and I think they get humbled a little bit in Arizona.
I'll be honest, I don't know that I call the Cardinals winning an upset, but today, if you ask me, and it could change tomorrow, I don't know, but today as we record this show, Drew Willingham, I too have the Cardinals. Let's see if the Bears can stop the bleeding. This might be the matchup of the week as we see the Detroit Lions head over into Green Bay, Wisconsin to do battle with the Cheeseheads. Packers hosting Lions. Who you got, Drew Willingham?
Last week and also, even though he's been in the league for a few years, backing up Aaron Rodgers before he got his chance to start last year, Jordan Love has struggled a little bit this year. I would call it a sophomore slump since it's his second year starting in the NFL. Looking at what he did this past week, he had 196 passing yards with an interception, didn't have any passing touchdowns. And playing against the Lions, you can't have stat lines like that against this team that literally is biting off kneecaps and has been a tough opponent to face all year long. So with my NFC representative for the Super Bowl favorite of the Detroit Lions, I have them winning this game in this division game over the Packers.
I will add, I'll put it this way. Actually, no, there's no other way to put it. You have Jordan Love hurt, or you have Malik Willis. Give me the Lions. With that being said, the Los Angeles Rams do battle with the Seattle Seahawks. Crucial NFC West game. Drew Willingham, who you got?
This game's pretty interesting as well, I got to say. Looking at the Seahawks, their first-year head coach, they've been making some noise. They've been doing the thing out here in the field. This is another division game, a reason why this is up in the air. And the Rams have been on fire, even though they're at home. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp stay healthy for all this game, as well as Matthew Stafford getting things going with them as well. I have them winning this game as the road team in Seattle.
Yeah, I'm with you too. Right now, I don't see a scenario where the Rams play enough defense, and that means a shootout. And oddly enough, no, you know what? I just talked myself into the Rams. Give me the Rams. What just happened there? The Colts head over to Minnesota on Sunday night. Yeah, I'll be skipping that one probably. Who you got as Colts versus Vikings there, Drew Willingham?
The Vikings coming off back-to-back losses has been tough for them after starting this year 5-0. And the Colts making a decision this week to bench the quarterback that tapped out of the game last week in Anthony Richardson, putting in Joe Flacco. And Joey Flacco has had some good success between the Browns last year and with the Colts this year in a resurgence of his late career. I have a feeling that the Vikings continue to have their tale of woe out there, and they will lose their third consecutive game, this one being at home. And the Colts will improve to one game over 500.
Yeah. I can't pick the Colts in this game. I'm sorry. I know they're starting the immortal, but to me, the Vikings have too many weapons. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but do so, Colts. Prove something. Yeah, Vikings there.
They will in this game, just like the Browns did last year when they put them in.
Listen, if that's what happens to Willingham, I'm more than happy to give you this video so you can make a short and have a little gif in the corner of a basketball player repeatedly dunking on my head. I have no problem with that.
Oh, you know, I'll have the acknowledge me clip in there too.
That's right. Oh, yeah, we worship the tribal chief here. That's what's up.
Yeah.
No offense, Scory Roach, of course. Let's not get silly. I hate the hair. I'm sorry. Why'd you do it, Joey Burr? Anyways, Tampa Bay heads over to Arrowhead on Monday night to do battle with Patrick Mahomes II and Chris Jones and the Chiefs. Who you got, Drew Willingham?
The rematch of the 2020 Super Bowl for these two teams, but the quarterback is different for Tampa Bay, and some pieces are different on both sides as well. I like what the Buccaneers have been doing this year. I really, really do, Kyle Nash. I mean, Baker Mayfield has been consistent at times during these 4 wins, but also during the 4 losses, he's become Bunker Stayfield like he was at different points in his career. Now, the Chiefs have found ways to win and are undefeated. The only undefeated team left in the NFL, but it's been primarily at the hands of their defense, as their offense has literally just been finding ways to not turn the ball over too much and to stay relevant. Patrick Mahomes has been more of a game manager, not throwing for 300 yards really this year, but has also had a couple sloppy games, and their defense has bailed them out. And I think this is another opportunity where they're going to get a loss this season, and it's going to come across a team that really needs the win to stay relevant in their division. I'm going to go with the Buccaneers in the upset in dethroning the undefeated Chiefs at home as the away team coming in, because it'll be the rejuvenation that they need for their season. And it'll also be the smack in the mouth the Chiefs need to finally wake up completely and get ready for this third Super Bowl appearance in a row to try to do the three-peat.
Drew Willingham, that is a very lucid, intelligent, and well thought out objection of the Chiefs. Overruled. Chris Godwin is out for the year. Mike Evans is still hurt and not 100% since that Steeler game, and you expect them to supplant the Chiefs' defense. No, not going to happen. The Chiefs are a defensive football team. Why do you think I go out of my way to point out Chris Jones, who's the actual star of the team right now? By compulsion, I have to say Patrick Mahomes II and Travis Michael Kelce. But they have not been the driving force. Sure, you can't win a football game without points, and they do provide those at times, let's be clear. But that defense is going to be too much for the Bucs to overcome. And listen, as a dude who is impressed by mature Baker Mayfield, not that young punk that came into the league at first, okay? Seeing mature Baker Mayfield do his thing, it's very easy to cheer for him and all for that. But the Bucs defense hasn't been what it's needed to be. It certainly wasn't what it was when it started at the start of the year, where they had some significant victories under their belt.
I just have a feeling that they're going to be able to get Bucky Irving and Rashad White going in this game. And even if it's the dink and dunks, I'm not going to be surprised if it goes the other way and the Chiefs are 8-0. But you got to have faith. Plus, we've agreed on almost every single pick so far in this pick'em. I had to give you something, Kyle Nash. I had to bring the fire and bring the promo.
You already went off the deep end with the Colts, and you decided to double down here against Chris Jones and Patrick Mahomes II. I mean, listen, you do what you got to do, homie.
I got 2 chances to have an upset against you. Yes, I got you. I have to, Kyle Nash. It's content. It's content, also, whether I'm good or bad with.
We also disagreed earlier as well, where I did go Chargers, go. So there is that one too. Let's be fair. I mean,
I got 3 chances. It's like playing the lottery. I got 3 chances to win something big. Give me a prize.
You need something to come back from the whole ACC quarterback thing. I completely understand.
I can afford to be wrong now after what I just witnessed live this past weekend. I'm I'm good for a while. Like I'm still trying to find the words to describe it.
Ooh, you got to make a name for yourself trying to get one right here, there, Drew Willingham. Is that a gambit drop I just did? Holy crap. Anyways, that Drew Willingham, tell the world where you could be found, please.
Well, primarily, SIRTOBA Media, as you see on the hat. I'll press a button right quick so you guys can see. They'll do a little zoom in action right here. You can zoom in. Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. I think the virtual background's affecting it a little bit. But some of you might be watching this on SIRTOBA Media as Kyle has this show on this platform. You can also check me out, Team MBS Media as well, with me doing some of the things I do with them, especially with the Commanders Gridiron Report. Like Kyle said, we have the Commanders Gridiron Report, Total Football Talk on Mondays, Total Football Talk Extra with the Canadian Football League on Fridays. Commanders Gridiron Report right now just kind of floating around throughout the week. And coming soon in November, D. Willie in the Evening, the show with all the shenanigans, the comedy, the stories, all sorts of stuff coming back in November. So stay tuned. But you can find all my content at SIRTOBA Media, SIRTOBA, where the struggle is real to be awesome. SIRTOBA.com for the website. Find it on all major platforms, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. And I mean, Facebook's kind of dwindling.
What if my mom wants to watch SIRTOBA Media? Okay, give it out.
She could. I just need to get better with posting to it. But between that and then you've got the other platforms, X, Twitter or whatever. I just don't pay for that streaming part. But
I mean, listen, you're a single man. You can tell everyone you're on X. I can't do that. I have 2 kids.
No. I'm not doing all that stuff. No need to be taking a trip down to the place and putting some stuff in a cup to prove otherwise. I don't have time for that. I'm on vacation this week. But I do have to say, it is fun to still be a part of this game with, working career, youth, fatherhood, and all sorts of stuff that we've all got going on out here. It's tough to get these things in, but to be able to be as consistent as we all have within the contributions for not only SIRTOBA Media, but what you guys have done with what you've done with FFSN, the Duval Dive. I mean, it gets tougher as we get older out here, but it's for the people that we enjoy doing it for, to give them the content, to entertain them for the little bit of time that we get to do it. And just to be able to have the time to do it here with you, Kyle, for the first time in quite some time, it made my vacation to be able to take time to be here with you. So I'm glad that we were able to make it happen.
Yes, as close as I live to Disney, I'm glad to hand somebody a vacation. I like the sound of that, Drew Willingham. And listen, I don't want to hear anything about old or fatherhood. It's all just a number out here in these streams. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the student of the game. Check out my writings with the aforementioned Fans First Sports Network, where I am writing Magic and Jaguars content, as well as my work with the Black and Gold Banneret, covering UCF football, basketball, both men's and women's. I'm doing a lot of stuff. And the Night Shift podcast, Drew Willingham. You can find me and Jeff Sharon interviewing Shaquem Griffin as he's going to get inducted into the UCF Hall of Fame this coming Friday. This is Wednesday as we're recording this, just for everybody's know. But all I know for a fact is you can find it on SIRTOBA and Huddle Up Inc. YouTube channels. In the meantime, if you want it on demand, facts of the case. And then, of course, the Duval Dive Wednesday night, typically at 7:30. We did a little emergency episode. So if you go to any of, again, the aforementioned YouTube channels, you can find the Duval Dive still Wednesday at 7:30. It'll just be recorded already. But typically 7:30 p.m. Wednesday live. And, of course, the post-game reaction. This is an away game, so we won't have Travis D. Holmes live from Everbank Stadium, but we will have a post-game reaction for the Duval Dive live. And speaking of live, the Black and Gold Banner YouTube channel, you'll have Night Shift live for reactions, instant reactions to the space game where the Arizona Wildcats come to the bounce house. A lot of stuff we do here, folks. But of course, many thanks to Philip Rossman-Reich of Locked On Magic, and of course, the man himself, the head of SIRTOBA Media, Drew Willingham. I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game. Until next time, everyone, class dismissed. I'm getting that volume on there.